Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're just going to give a couple more minutes for others to join in, and we'll get started in about 3 minutes, and we'll take it from there. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I think we'll get started as others have joined today's webinar. Just to briefly introduce myself, and then my colleague Nicola will too. My name is Natalia. I see some familiar faces in the chat there, so nice to see you all again. I'm the territory manager for Total Materia here in North America, working outside of Toronto. And thank you for joining today, our webinar on sustainability, and hopefully we could help you get from inconsistent data sets to reliable LCA and CO2 calculations, of course, with Total Materia Greenline. Nicola, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on overcoming the challenge of unreliable LCA and CO2 data with Total Material Greenline, as Nat mentioned. Powered, all by EcoInvent, where we'll show you how to access reliable and granular LCA data, show you how manufacturing, processing, and transport choices impact CO2 outcomes, how LCA can help, organizations like yours drive better design and material decisions, without any inconsistencies in methods or tools used by, different teams or industries, all while following standardized methodologies and aligning with global standards like ISO 14000. And yeah, Nat is first going to walk you through, the green line, how it all works, and then I'll show you, the whole platform in action. And yeah, by the way, I'm Nicole. I'm the account manager here in Tool Material, working alongside Nat for the North American department. So yeah, any questions or any help with the platform that you have, you can always reach out to us. And feel free to ask any questions, by the way, in chat box below, and we'll definitely get to them.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicola.
Sure.
Now let's get right into it. So first I'll just be going over a short presentation, but then we're going to get into the actual platform so then you can see for yourself how you could create some consistent data sets and reliably calculate LCA in situ calculations during your material selection process. For today's agenda, we're going to be going over how material information workflows have changed in the last couple of years, what we've seen from our customers, a brief introduction to the whole total materia platform, specific focus on Greenline, our compliance to sustainability tool, how those parameters are calculated from a material group perspective, and which sustainability parameters we do cover. So everyone could be pretty open with all of that. A demonstration that will be done by Nicola, and then if we need to host a Q&A session at the end, we will. And just in general, feel free to add in any questions in the questions box at the top there, and we'll be able to get through those. So as indicated in the title, have material information workflows changed? And I think everyone on this call could agree with that. So back in the day, the material selection process was as mentioned. We have materials engineer selecting the material, simulation engineers performing the simulations once that material is selected. You have to do a quality check, and from a supply chain perspective, you have to understand, am I able to actually purchase this material? And now we have two new, very, very important contributors as well: sustainability, so your CO2 footprint by choosing this material. And do you know if there are any greener alternatives out there? Plus, from a compliance perspective too, there's over hundreds of different compliance regulations you have to cover today. And of course, it's definitely better to understand where you're coming from a sustainability perspective as well as compliance perspective before you go through that whole material selection process. So that used to be that classic engineering focus. Are you choosing a material that's suitable for the task? Is it reliable? And can you find it at the right price? But now you have so many different business focuses. Are you able to sell this material in the market? Is it meeting your corporate goals from a sustainability perspective? Are you obtaining what you need? Are you delivering good quality at the same time? And are you able to validate that product accurately? So as I mentioned, it's definitely better to understand how your material is compared to from a sustainability perspective, during the process rather than when you finish your material selection process. And that's why we created, different things to help you align with that strategic business objective. So we're not going to be focusing on compliance today, but, risk management from a compliance perspective, reducing the risk of product recalls obviously helps you avoid penalties, fines, and brand damage. But from a sustainability perspective, choosing sustainable material helps you align with those corporate goals and ESG initiatives. And of course, when you have access to those sustainable materials, you have more access to those incentives and grants. And finally, from a brand value and market differentiation side of things, of course, there's a growing demand for eco-friendly products, and giving that transparency to your customers gives you that competitive advantage. And luckily, with Total Materia, you're able to create those LCA calculations and CO2 calculations from reliable data sets. And how all of that works is the following. So, a brief on the whole Total Materia platform. So, as many of you know, we do have a materials reference library that covers material properties on over 500,000 materials. That's basic mechanical, physical properties, compliance data, chemical composition information, corrosion information, tribology data. So, really, a lot of great not internal information, reference data. And the reason why I say internal is we do have a platform that helps you organize your internal materials information as well. We also have a tool that helps you predict material properties. So utilizing all the information from Total Materia Horizon, we've been able to create reliable and accurate machine learning algorithms to help you predict material properties for missing data. And finally, where we're going to be focusing on today is Greenline. So the compliance and sustainability tool. We're going to be focusing on the sustainability side of things for Greenline, but Nicola's going to show you how you could create those LCA and CO2 calculations. And really, the whole goal of Total Materia is to help the departments and people in need. So that goes from a material specialist, product steward perspective, from quality, supply chain purchasing and sales, simulation, CAE and CAD, and everything in between there. So we want to help our customers get access to the right materials information and for those people to share the information with the right people. So as I mentioned, we're going to be going into a little bit more details on Total Materia Greenline, our compliance and sustainability tool, but a primary focus on today is what we cover from a sustainability perspective, LCA CO₂ calculators, and we want to help you find sustainable materials and also their equivalents. So in our life cycle assessment tool, we have over 40 plus global average indicators coming from EcoEvent to help you, you know, get those right values. We have accurate CO₂ assessments, and through our carbon footprint calculator, so our CO₂ calculator, you could actually define your parameters, and we'll go into more detail on which parameters we have available and which parameters we cover. But really, with Greenline, you could help yourself to global alternatives to over 400,000 materials. So really being able to find those global equivalents. A question we always receive from our customers is how do we calculate these parameters? So from a metallic materials perspective, it's really easy. We utilize the chemical composition. So we're able to calculate this from chemical composition by weights. So then you're able to get a nice LCA and CO₂ number. For non-metallic materials, it's a little bit more complicated, but what we do is we classify polymers into families and we use averages from EcoEvent. Or if there's information found directly through the producer data sheet or through other sources, we add that data in so then you could get the most information out there. And the scope of our carbon footprint assessment tool, so our LCA and CO₂ calculators, are as follows. So we cover raw material extraction, of course. That's usually defined by standards, producer data sheets, manufacturing routes. So you could even specify the country, the recycled content, and of course the manufacturing route, processes, and as well as transportation. So those are the four parameters we do cover. We do not cover use and end of life. And really it's because we just haven't been able to find reliable information on those two parameters. Maybe in the future we'll be able to get more information on that. But really what we're covering today is from the raw material extraction to transportation, so cradle to gate. And really, the goal of this is to help engineers find green alternatives and, of course, help you actually calculate a reliable carbon footprint value. So now Nicola will take over today and perform calculations in both our LCA and CO₂ tools so you could see how you could create those consistent calculations yourself. So Nicola, take it away.
Thank you, Nat, for the great presentation. Now I'll walk you guys through the platform and show you what it's all about and how it all works and what it looks like in action. So as most of you probably know, this is the Toll Materia database. And here you'll be able to access over 570,000 material designations coming from 83 standard organizations, 94,000 data sources, 25 million data points. So a lot of material information that you will be able to pull from the platform. And as probably most of you know, this is our main platform, Tool Material Horizon, where you'll be able to, not only access the, mechanical and physical properties for all of these materials, but also, access more advanced properties, just, such as stress strain, fatigue data, even corrosion that Nat mentioned earlier, welding data, equivalencies, a lot of material information that you'll be able to find here. But as we said, today we'll focus on Tool Material Greenline and show you how to perform different sustainability calculations. So if we go from here to a material console and we add some materials within material console that we wanted to assess. For example, I created this list for sustainability calculations that I wanted to check. And then if you're working on specific, projects, you can definitely go back to these lists and, use them for specific projects, give that list a name, give it a description. So you can always go back to that and really lets you create a good workflow within the database. And from here, if you would like, just to quickly add it to Greenline, you can click on Add to LCA. So yeah, within Greenline, you'll be able to perform, different material substances, compliance assessments, BOM, as well as LCA and carbon footprint, which is what we'll focus on today. And within the life cycle assessment, so there are, plenty of indicators and methods that you can actually include in these. And if we go, for example, with the ecosystem health indicators, we can include something like, climate change, for example, ecotoxicity. If you click on it, you can actually pick and choose what you will, like to include or exclude from these calculations. And then, if you would like to exclude, for example, marine ecotoxicity or any other, you can just do it right here. And then you can also include, the other ones you would like to work with, for example, energy demand, and you can also do that with the endpoint damage indicators. For example, if you like to include human health, for instance. And then once you include, the indicators and the methods you would like to work with, scroll below and click on calculate. And here you'll find all the values for these different materials that I added just here. And just for, variety's sake, I included, different steels, aluminum, polymers. So, feel free to, play around and include the materials that you most commonly work with. And you'll be able to perform those calculations right here. And if you scroll to the right, you'll be able to see the values for each one of these indicators that you selected. And if you would like, let's say, to pin reference the material for benchmarking so you can see how it compares, to others, so you can truly find the greener alternatives, you can definitely do that right here. Or if you would like, let's say, to export this data to, let's say, Excel, you can do that right here. So just click on Export to Excel, include what you would like to include in that export, click here, and you'll be able to do that right here. As well, if you would like, to print like a PDF or a report, you can definitely do that as well. So just click on Add to Report Builder, PDF it, and share that with anyone across the company. Also, if you would like to save this, life cycle assessment, so you can go back to it for a specific project, let's say, you can give it a name here, give it a description, and always go back to it so you don't actually lose your work. And a good thing, about this is that none of this information will actually be shattered across the organizations, with multiple Excel sheets or, different ways of actually storing the information. So all of this will be in one place, which just helps you access it all in one place whenever you would like to return back to your work. And then it works in a similar way for the CO2 calculation. So if we go back to the list that I was showing, something else that you can also do. So let's go back to Material Console, go back to the list we were using, and then if you would like to add these to the CO2 calculator, you can just do this, and then you can include and select, what you would like to see here. If you have more materials, you can, select different material groups that you have here, different standards you're working with, and then you can also add different manufacturing, processing, and transport, things here that, you can include in these CO2 calculations to help with, your specific examples that you're working with. So if we, let's say, would like to add parameters for this one, click here, and for manufacturing, let's say we would like to add a country or region of processing to be Europe, for example. And then you can click and select the manufacturing route. And then if you would like to select or see more details about the manufacturing calculation, you can always do it right here. So just click on it, and here you'll be able to learn more about the carbon footprint calculation for both metallic and non-metallic materials, for chemical composition data and the calculation. So all of that information will be right here, especially about eco-invent, and different data sets that you can learn more about. And then if you would like, to include these manufacturing parameters and move on to processing, just click here. And then here you can select the processing you're actually interested in. So let's say for this example, you would like to go with cast iron drilling conventional, for example, and then you go to the country or region of processing. Let's go with Europe again, and then you add the removed material. So let's say 0.23. And then if you would like to, learn more about the description or the reference that's used for this, you can just click here, and here you'll have more information about that. Click on save, and then lastly, you just move on to the transport section where you'll be able to include, different transport types. For example, you go with a truck. Select the one you would like to work with, for example, Euro 4. Add the distance, for example, 10,000, click on add. And once you add that again, if you'd like to learn more about the description and the reference used, just click here, and this is where you'll be able to find all of that. Click on save, and then all you need to do is just click on calculate, and you'll get all the values for carbon footprint for these materials that you selected. And if you would like to, visualize it differently and see a chart that represents these values, you can just hover over this option right here, click on it, and here you'll get the most contributing factors to the carbon footprint. So in this case, manufacturing was the factor that contributes the most to CO2. Then we have transportation, and then lastly, we have the processing method that you selected. And then below you can also view all of these different values that you can also export or add to report builder. So let me show you how to do that. If you would like to add this to report builder, just click here. It will take you to material console, and here is what it will look like. And then you can also as I mentioned, PDF this and share that with anyone within the organization. And then if I go back to the CO2 calculator that I was showing, if you would like, let's say, to duplicate this material, so you can add a different, criteria that you would like to work with. You can just go here and let's say if we would like to change, let's say the processing, you can just remove the first one, just so you can see how it compare with different type of processing. Let's go with cast iron milling average, and let's go with the country region of processing. Let's go the Europe, and let's add the remove material to 1. Click on add, save, and then click on calculate. And here you'll have a new value for the processing, so you can compare the one with the initial one. And then again, if you would like to visualize it differently, now you'll see that the processing is the thing that contributes the most to CO2. So something else that can also be quite useful here, if you would like to find equivalent materials and replace the material you originally wanted to work with, you can just use and hover over this option right here. Click on it, and here you can find different equivalents and cross-references. So just click on the cross-referencing table, select the equivalence category you would like to work with, whether you like to work with and only find identical or official equivalents, both coming from standard development organizations, or equivalents coming from that are a match in chemical composition, or the ones that come from producers' catalogs, books, brochures, and so on and so forth. You can just choose the equivalence category right here. You can select the country or the standard you would like to work with, and then click on calculate. And here you can find different equivalents with, each one having different carbon footprint values based on the parameters that you added. And then if you would like just to quickly compare the material with, let's say their basic information or their chemical composition based on the reference that you select, compare their mechanical properties based on the temperature that you select, as well as their physical properties, you can definitely do that right here. And then lastly, if you would like to, replace the material, you can definitely do that as well. And then something else that I also wanted to show you here, again, if you would like to save this CO₂ calculation, you can definitely do that. So just give it a name, give it a description. You can also export this to Excel, as I was showing earlier with the LCA. And you can always go back to your work. And since we do have some time available, I just wanted to quickly also show you how you will be able to perform compliance assessments since we're here. So if we go back to the list that I was showing and we forward this to the compliance assessment, so just go here, compliance assessor, and let's say you would like to quickly, assess it to specific regulations, for example, PFAS, or let's say REACH. Let's go with the European Union one, Article 59. And then if we would like to add one more, for example, ROS, let's go with European Union 2015 one. Okay, let's include that and then just click on Assess. And here you'll find all the compliances for these different materials that we added, which one is compliant, which one is not compliant, which is not assessed. So here, if you don't get enough information why it's not assessed, you can also click onto the vertical view, and here you have the exact elements which might be contributing to that. So you'll see it all a bit more in depth, so you can visualize it this way. And then if I go back to the table view, just, lastly wanted to show you this as well. You can also, find equivalent materials in the same way that I was showing earlier for the carbon footprint calculations. And then you can also export to Excel, save it. So, all the same functionalities to what I was showing earlier. And then you can also, duplicate this if you would like to add different regulations to these. So yeah, just also something that I wanted to quickly walk you through, just so you know it's also possible within this module. And then I'll just, quickly launch a quick poll right now just to see if you would be interested in actually um, testing out Greenline. We can definitely give you some test period access. So let me just quickly share that with you. And if you can just take a minute to quickly vote. And then if anyone would like to, to test out Greenline, explore it with your own examples, use cases, just let us know. We can definitely give you some access for a couple of weeks so you can play around, explore it in more depth. And then if you would like, to schedule a more in-depth session to go over your, specific examples or answer any, specific questions you were having, we can also do that. So yeah, here's a quick poll. If you can just take a couple of seconds to vote, and just so we can see, have a better idea where's the interest there, and then we can definitely get back to you and provide you with your credentials so you can log in and start using it.
Great. And while people are accessing that poll, does anyone have any other questions for Nicola or myself today? Had anything to do with total materia? Feel free.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for voting. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box below, or Nat can also show our contact information, so you can always reach out to us either through email or call us, and we'll definitely be here to walk you through anything or support you in any way that we can.
Yeah, I'll just share our info in just a moment here. But yeah, you have our emails, you have our numbers. So anyways, thank you everyone for joining today. We really appreciate it, and we'll give you back 14 minutes out of your day, and hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and hopefully we be in touch soon. Have a good one, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.